So howdy, hello everyone. Yes, howdy, we're not crowdy, but today we have a chance to share some vital information that will be good for our community's well-being. And so this live stream will be here for future references. So we'll go ahead and start. So again, welcome. Today I have the pleasure of having Ralston on. He's in the studio with me, and we also have Damien, who is on and will also provide some support. So thank you both. I also invited my brother to come. Dave, if you're here, say hello. Let me know you're here. So before we start, I wanted to find out if you can hear me okay. Is my voice loud enough? How is the video? And of course, at any point, well, hi, hi, Damien. Welcome, and thank you. So at any point, if you can't hear me, just please let me know. Give me a nudge, because if not, I'll be talking and the information will not go through. And then, later on, it'll be hard for this to be a reference. So of course, I'm going to try to speak in English for most of this, but I may be flipping back and forth to Patois, so we'll see. I'll start by introducing myself. Yes, it's your bush femme, Kenyatta, and unconventional Jamaican, but yes, born and grown in Jamaica before I went to foreign. And what do? I enjoy small things. Right now, I'm still in transition and on this healing path, remembering my and our goodness as people and healing intergenerational trauma. I would like to share that with you, and also to share how one can navigate stress, because intergenerational trauma shows up as stress in our life. And that is my deepest volition to be able to share this with you. So my new friend asked me recently, why I left the monastery. Why would you leave like a peaceful place to come out in the world, and now in Jamaica? And I would like to share with you that, yes, I could have stayed in the monastery and it could have been a very comfortable, existence. However, it wouldn't be full and complete. So, and also my Zen master shared with me that, the non-Vietnamese in the monastery, it was a Vietnamese monastery, eventually need to go back to your roots, to go back to your roots and do the work from there. And of course, I thought, go back to my roots, go back to Jamaica. How would this translate in Jamaica? And then, thanks to good old COVID, it made it clear. So here I am in Jamaica. And of course, I have absolutely no idea what this manifestation means, but I have total faith and confidence that being here is enough. And each step, I get information in terms of, what I need to do next. So, yes, the monastery is a complete different world from being here in Jamaica, but yet I feel, quite happy and content in myself, and also to be able to connect and to my roots and my people. Yeah. So that's just a little introduction for myself, but feel free, if you have not yet done so, to, introduce yourself in the chat, if you like. So, yes. Hi, Damien. Good night. Good vibes. Yes. This will be good vibes. And don't be surprised if you get really sleepy or get really calmed down, because we're going to be working with the nervous system. And when the nervous system comes down, sometimes we may feel sleepy, because when we're on a high, we can't feel the real thing of our nervous system. When we're in high stress, of course, it's hard to rest. So we sometimes, when we come down, then we may start to feel a little bit, So during this presentation, if you want to lie down, please do that. And if you fall asleep, that's still okay, because consciousness is still working. Consciousness is still working, and you will be able to still receive the information. So, if you fall asleep, that's fine. And yeah, so some logistic. I want to again thank my subscribers. We hit 500 a couple weeks ago, and this is a big milestone because it allows me now to do community posts. And I'm of the spirit of celebrating the little things. So 500, yes, and we'll continue to grow organically. And again, my main volition is to be able to, it's really not entertainment, but it's to be able to have the full scope of the human life. So I share my life, which is, I say, it's my message. And I also will share some practical things so we can touch well-being within our lives. So our quality of life can improve. So welcome all the new subscribers to the family. We are revolutionary Jamaicans. And I say revolutionary because, the fact that we're looking at stress and how to manage stress, that is quite revolutionary, because we're not trying to hide from it and cover it up. We're trying to get to the root so we can understand it and know how to navigate it. So yes, even as I share and I talk about my experience, I also acknowledge that I'm here because you were there. And the African concept called Ubuntu, maybe later JR can correct me on that, but Ralston. But the term emphasizes the importance of group and community. So a person is a person because of other persons. So I'm not an island. I don't stand alone. There's so many different supports that allow me to be here. The fact that I asked Damien, can you join and help, hold space? And he, gladly agreed. That's a huge help for me, because it's not only a familiar person, but also it gives me some kind of groundedness in the fact that, what I share needs to be accessible, and also, he can come in too to help me fill in the gaps. And also my dear cousin Ralston is on to share his talent, and my brother will join at some point. So I'm here not as a sole person, not as an island, but as a community already, whether it be big or small, still a community. So we'll touch a lot of our goodness, and we'll look at what is as well. So today, I just finished the intro. We'll touch on the community agreement, so we're on the same page in terms of how we relate to each other, as well as we'll have some poetry by Ralston. We'll have then we go into the depth of the material. Maybe I can put this in the chat, the agenda, so we all have it. And okay. All right, so that didn't copy and paste well. It didn't have spacing. It doesn't have the new line. It's a bit clumped up. But anyways, it is what it is. So I'll start with the community agreement before we ask Ralston to share the poem. So just trying to switch. Okay. Oh yes, I did share my credentials, just to know that I'm not speaking out in the air. This information is coming to you from somewhere, and it's linked to some the work of many other people, whether it be the Trauma Resource Institute or someone is asked to drop a link. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not lying, drop a link. That's Jack. Jack, please explain, Jack, what you mean by dropping a link. What link? So yes, just to acknowledge that this work came from somewhere. Someone actually did this did the work to provide the information so we can all have access to it. So it's also just to give credit as well as gratitude to those who come before us and help us understand what the topic matter, stress and stresslessness. Yeah, so I'm inviting you to hold each other with care, and these are some concrete ways we can do this. We can look over them. So YouTube has your community agreement, and I would like to add these. So invitations tried on. Curiosity is welcome. Curiosity also comes with imperfection and making mistakes. If there's no such thing as a wrong question, a wrong, comments. So we just hold each other with care. Confidentiality. This is a public space, so please do share what's comfortable. And we're not blaming or shaming anyone, ourselves or anyone. And we're not here to fix anyone either, or to give advice or etc. Okay, so any questions before we move on? Okay, so again, at any point, if my audio goes wonky, please let me know. Okay, so we now move over to the next part. So Ralston has graciously accepted to share some poetry. And again, if there are talents out there in the community, please let me know. And for future live stream, I'd like to bring you on to share your talent. Yes. So we'll bring Ralston on. I see David is also in the studio. So okay.
I think that again.
Hello, Ralston. I welcome. Thank you again for coming on to the live stream to share your talent with us. I've heard a lot of your poems before over the years, and I always encourage you to share them. And I was waiting for that day to come, and it so happened that today is the day. So thank you for accepting.
Thank you
How are
for
you
your invitation.
How are you feeling about sharing?
Grateful. Grateful for the space to share it and for to take on some type of life other than on my page when I write it. And the
Yes,
occasional voices the occasional ears that hear it. So I'm grateful for this opportunity.
wonderful. Thank you. So I'm going to spotlight you so you can share.
Everything has its worth. In my darkest of moments, in my deepest of hurt, I recognize that everything has its worth. Life. Life is life, and there are turning points, joy to tears, and tears to laughter. Each moment brings us closer to what we're after. Disappointments, heartaches, lost dreams, shyness. In all of this, we can still be our best. When tears subside and joy returns, when we feel no more hurt, when the lessons learned, we recognize that everything, everything has its worth. Over to you, Kenyatta. You're muted. We're not hearing you.
Thank you. I need that. See, community eyes. Thank you, JR. Thank you, Ralston. I said to Ralston that I'll try to call him Ralston, but habits are hard to change. So thank you so much, Ralston, for sharing. This is very powerful and very deep poem, and it's very applicable to the topic for today of stress. So thank you for sharing that beautiful poem from your heart.
Thank you.
Dear heart. Yeah, so we'll bring Ralston on towards the end to share another poem to wrap up. So thank you, Ralston, and we'll see you then. So, community, we do have a lot to cover today, so I'll move along. I see Ralston is getting some love in the chat. Wow, excellent. Welcome back, Damien. So maybe Ralston, I'm not sure if you're able to see those love coming your way. No, he's not able to, but it's okay. Afterwards, you can go ahead and look at it. All right, so community, we're going to move forward with the material, and it won't be just dry, information. We'll have practice, and we will start with practice. So we'll have a moment to land. And before we actually go into the landing exercise, I'd like to acknowledge that these are difficult times that we're living in all over the planet. There is no spot on this planet that is exempted from the difficult times that's happening. And with that, sometimes we do need to take a mini pause. Sometimes we need to stop during our day and reset. So stopping like that may help reduce stress, and it can bring you back into balance in your mind and in your body. So we're going to have a time to practice. So I'm going to invite you to get comfortable. I'm going to put on a piece of music. Give me a second, navigating technology. You can let me know if you're able to hear the music or not. Just go a little bit in. Are you able to hear that? Can you give me some thumbs up in the chat if you're able to hear that little piece I just played? Okay. Ask for your patience while I actually bring back up the music. I had it prepared before, but as life has it, sometimes things don't go the way planned, so I have to try this way. Okay. So I invite you now to get comfortable. So you could be sitting or standing or lying down while we go through this landing exercise. So So I invite you to just take a moment as you're comfortable with your eyes open to take a look around your space. Yes, maybe you know your space very well. Maybe you're familiar with every corner of your space. But I'm inviting you to look again, as if you're seeing it for the first time. What are you seeing? You may silently name it to yourself. Maybe you're noticing some colors, textures. What is the eyes taking in? Is there anything pleasant in your space? You may pause for a moment to take in something pleasant. When you take a deep breath, you may allow your body to just settle with that thing you're taking in that's pleasant to you. I'm inviting you now, if it feels right and comfortable, for you to close your eyes, or not, or if not, you can keep them open with a softened gaze. If you feel to do like a gentle rock as I'm doing, allowing the music to come in. Are you hearing the music? I invite you now to get curious and ask yourself these questions. What or who makes you feel good? What or who is helping you the most right now? What or who gives you strength or courage? What or who helps you to get through hard times in the past? Let's sit with that for a minute as you call to mind your answers to one or all of the questions. Sometimes, thinking of someone or something that gives you strength, you may notice some pleasant sensations or even a smile forming on your lips. If this is the case, Stay with that for a minute. So, yes, it has been difficult. And this moment, this very moment, it may feel very good and uplifting to call to mind that memory. So, when you're ready, you may start to come back to the room. If your eyes were closed, you may slowly open them. You can take in your space again. This time, you may use your ears just to listen to the sounds that is close to you. Maybe the sound of my voice, or maybe someone else in the room is talking. And notice if there's any sound that's far away, or even far, far, far away. Okay, so I invite you now to notice how you're feeling now comparing to when we just started, when you just arrived. How was it for you, this practice, this landing moment? You may inwardly acknowledge or share in the chat and the comments if you're watching it at a later time. For me, I was thinking of those mornings at the bush with blue skies and puffy clouds, with distant sounds of roosters, birds, even a belcher truck far in the distance. And I felt a sense of warmth, and even as I share it right now, I get goosebumps. And I have this fuzzy feeling in my heart. So we just had a chance to hopefully taste stresslessness, well-being. So throughout this landing moment, through this landing moment, I mean, so this is also called a resiliency pause. So a pause to increase your resilience. So it's also okay if you weren't able to touch stresslessness this time around, but maybe you have laid the foundation for it for the next time. And if you fell asleep, that's also great. The body just needed deep rest. And before we carry on, I just want to say that what we'll be doing here is very simple, but also deep. So don't underestimate what we're doing. Give it a try. That's why we have that agreement to try it on, try it out. Okay. Yes, Damien, we're not crowdy. We're a small channel, so we're building grounds up. And we'll move on to the next. So the information mainly comes from the community resiliency model, and this is created by Elaine Miller-Karras and also developed by the Trauma Resource Institute, and it's copyrighted by the Trauma Resource Institute. So restriction applies to reusing of this information. Just want to put it out there so there's clarity. Now we'll get into the meat of things. What is your definition of stress? So before we carry on, because I know this helps, we're on YouTube and it helps the analytics. So I saw that, David's still with us, but he is in the studio. And I want to invite David into the main room so it can help with analytics. Yes, each person on counts. Oh my goodness, I also forgot to remind my dear brother. So I'm going to also invite him. Okay. So stresslessness. Let's talk about stresslessness. So let me share the screen again. Okay. Stresslessness. So we're going to start to go into the meat of that, the meat of our presentation today. Sorry. So I'm curious, what is your definition of stress, and how does it show up in your life? And how do you get relief from stress? You may share it with everyone in the chat or comments if you're watching this at a later time. Or you may just acknowledge it inwardly, what that means for you. So I was curious to see what different organizations were saying about stress. So I found the mind.org.uk talks about stress as stress is how we react when we feel under pressure or threatened. It usually happens when it usually happens when we're in a situation that we don't feel we can manage or control. So that's mind.org. The Cleveland Clinic says stress is a normal human reaction that happens to everyone. In fact, the human body is designed to experience stress and react to it. So that's a definition from the Cleveland Clinic. And I have one last one to share. As per UNICEF, stress is a common feeling that affects children as much as adults, just differently. I thought that was interesting, affecting children, because sometimes we don't realize how stress affects children. We think children are immune to everything, but actually they feel very deeply. So UNICEF also shared, stress is a common feeling we get when we feel under pressure, overwhelmed, or unable to cope. Small amount of stress can be good for us and motivate us to achieve goals like taking an exam or giving a speech. Yep, I was stressed out this morning, and Jared helped me out. And coming on, I also had these nervous feeling in my stomach, and I had to, work through those. Because I know at the end I feel good. Now I feel good. Yes, so small amount of stress can be good for us and motivate us to achieve goals like taking an exam or giving a speech. But too much of it, especially when it feels out of control, can negatively impact our mood, physical and mental well-being, and relationships. Does that sound true to you? Yeah, it rings true to me. So at Merciless's funeral, I was really touched when Silver Cat shared about the stress Merciless went through, as well as when he said when a man is going through stress in Jamaica, they turn to liquor to wipe away all the stress. That really touched something in me. And it's interesting because my family owns a bar. Yeah. Anyways, that's another topic. We'll get to that at some point. So the thing is that alcohol and drugs are a temporary solution. Of course, I think we all know that. But over time, you need more and more to wipe away the stress as the stress keeps growing underneath. It's like having stress. I'm trying to give you an image here with my hand. It's like having like stress, and alcohol is like covering it up or trying to wipe it away. But in reality, you cannot wipe it away. Underneath, it just festers and it grows. It can grow and you just need more alcohol to keep it in check. Yes. So what if there's another way, an alternative to liquor, to drugs, or to any other way we cope with stress that may have some side effects, meaning that it may cover up the problem, but it also creates other problems for us. Because of course, we know that liquor and drugs put a strain on our family and our relationships. And when we are under the influence, we're not our true self. So we're going to explore this. Stressless is not about getting rid of anything. It's about understanding what we're working with. So I like to stress on the point that we want to respect stress and the way it works. We're not creating a war inside of ourselves, where we're going to find stress and get rid of it or kill it or whatever you want to say. If you're experiencing stress or distress, I want to know that it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It is normal. Stress is a normal part of life. I have a reminder for that. Or not. Okay. So I'll just repeat again that you're not defective or weak if you experience stress. It is your biology. It's your shared human experience. It's our shared human experience. It's our humanness, stress. So it's not about getting rid of it. We'll talk about the resiliency zone, resiliency zone. And the resilient zone will lay the foundation for us to explore stress as well as tapping into stresslessness. We all have access to the language of our biology, the language of our body, and a way to help us understand the human experience. So, what does this mean? It means that we can work with the capacity and wisdom of our bodies and our nervous system. And anyone can do this, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, social class, gender. Children can do this. There's also the community resiliency model for children. Okay, so what is the resilient zone? So the resilient zone is sometimes called the OK zone, and it's a state of well-being in mind, body, and spirit. It is our window of tolerance. So these green lines depict the boundaries of our resilient zone, and when we're inside the resilient zone, we are able to experience a range of emotions. We're able to maintain the ability to think clearly. All our executive functions are on board, and we respond to situation in a flexible way. So we can still make sound decisions for ourselves, our family, and community. So within this window of tolerance, the red line depicts our inner experiences. Or the nervous system changing from moment to moment. So you may notice that there's a dynamic flow between the highs and lows. You see those yellow arrows moving us through the resilient zone, going up and coming down. So there can be times in the day when you feel more stressed and other times when you feel calmer. So there's a natural, normal ebb and flow that's happening in the resilient zone. And let me just bring your attention to the fact that this red line is actually smooth. It's a smooth flow. So stressors can happen during the day and you're still your best self in your mind and your body. So it's not like you're immune from the stress. Stress still happens, but you have this natural flow where you go up and you come down. And the goal is always to widen the resilient zone. So this is a nice diagram, an ideal situation. But the reality is that many of us are not living in this dynamic flow. I know it's true for me. Our nervous system sometimes can, get a little bit wonky. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So let me just check in with you. Are you still with me? Does this make sense? Any questions? Please drop it in the chat. Okay. All right. I know there's a little bit of lag, so I just wait in between my questions. If this sounds very strange for you, give it some time. Keep trying it on. Maybe by the end of this presentation, you will be able to understand a little bit more. Or maybe it's a second presentation. So before we carry on, I just invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose and through your mouth. Breathe out, let a sigh out. You can do that one more time. In. Okay, so we'll carry on. The resilient zone, even though there's this dynamic flow, it does not equal that you're happy all the time. Actually, it's not realistic to expect that one only has only one emotion, happiness, all the time. We have a range of emotions. So when you're in the resilient zone, you may be sad, mad, or even feeling neutral. But the main thing is we're in our zone, so we feel okay with those emotions coming through. So the emotions move us around in the zone. And there's a saying in the community resiliency model circles that when you're in your okay zone, you're good and you're your best self in good weather or bad weather. All right, so we're going to move to the next. So we may be in a resilient zone, even if it's for 5 minutes, we may be in our zone and we'll be feeling fine, doing okay. And then a stressful event happens and it hits our nervous system, hits us like a lightning bolt. And when that happens, we may get bumped out of the okay zone and we may go very high and then come crashing down, as shown by these jagged lines. I just want to emphasize again that this is a normal reaction of the nervous system to stress. It does not mean that something is going wrong. This is actually normal. So this movement in the nervous system with these jagged lines is called nervous system a dysregulated nervous system. So you remember the smooth line? That is a regulated nervous system. But when it gets like this, it's dysregulated. So when the nervous system is like this, we may sometimes get stuck in the high zone. And when we're stuck there in the high zone, we may be very irritable. We may be anxious, panicky. We may have angry outbursts. We may have physical pain in the body. And sometimes we get stuck in the low zone. And then this is where we become depressed, sad, isolated. We may feel quite tired, fatigued, or we may also feel numb. So it's okay to be bumped out, and we're not trying not to be bumped out. We're not trying to always stay in that zone. But instead, we want to be able to know when we get bumped out so we can get back in. So the skills, we'll be talking about some skills to help us get back into the resilience zone. And also what we had earlier, the landed moment or the resiliency pause, is a way to be able to come back in a resilient zone. Okay, so again, this is not weakness, this is just our biology. This is the human biological response to stress. And I'll just share a little bit of my personal experience. So, 12 years of meditative practice, 9 years of living in a monastery. And this is what my nervous system looked like the first 6 months of COVID. I couldn't meditate it away. And in fact, I could not sit and meditate anymore. So this was intergenerational trauma surfacing in my body. So working with my nervous system helped me to break the cycle. I learned about the community resiliency model, and I took to the practicing of the skills, and it really helped. So it doesn't mean that now I'm good and I'll never experience a dysregulated nervous system. No, it just means that now I can come back instead of waiting 6 months. I can come back in 6 minutes or a couple minutes. I can be back in my zone. And remember also the goal is to widen the zone. I will talk about that in a little bit on the next slide, actually. So we don't want to get stuck outside of the zone for too long, because that's when we start to have disorders. So has anyone beside me ever got stuck in the high or low zone? Does that sound familiar for you? Any light bulb going off? I wonder if anyone wants to come on to share. Maybe Damien. I'll just pause just to see if anyone wants to share. And while we pause and wait, I'm inviting you to orient to your space again. And I include this in our presentation just so we can also, as we learn, we can also start practicing these skills. So we're just looking around our space again and noticing that we are okay, we're safe. And you may think that, oh, maybe looking around, what's the point? But the eyes communicate to the nervous system that there's safety. You can say to yourself, oh, I'm safe, but actually the nervous system doesn't understand language. So the simple skills that we do is to communicate with our nervous system. So by looking around your space and seeing that, okay, there's no one here to harm me, I'm okay, the nervous system can settle a little bit more. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Okay. So we're not all born equally, unfortunately. Some are born with a narrow, resilient zone, and some with a wider zone. The goal is always to widen the zone. It can never be too wide. So, excuse me. We'll be looking at wellness skills to help to widen this zone. So the top area is a narrow, and the bottom you can see is a very wide zone. So I'll also share a story because my Zen master sometimes shared to us that in matter of suffering or even let's say stress, it's about our capacity. So when we have a narrow zone, we can be easily triggered or easily bumped out. But when we have a wider zone, we have more room to move. So if something terrible happened, but we're not out of our zone. We're still inside, or maybe on the top edge or low edge, but still we're inside. We're still okay. So my Zen master shared that it's about capacity. So for example, if we take a teaspoon of salt and put in a glass of water, mix it up, that becomes undrinkable. But if you put the same teaspoon of salt in a pond or river, we're able to, we won't be able to taste it. We can, drink that water, provided it's clean. So the same is true about our nervous system. With the narrowness or the wideness, there's more room. So let's get into the first skill we'll practice. It's called Reset Now. So Reset Now involves a few strategies to help us get back in our resilient zone. So something terrible happens, as we saw in the diagram, that we get bumped out. Our nervous system is like this. So these are some strategies to help us to get back in. Again, they're simple, but they're deep. So don't underestimate them. They can help the person focus on something outside of the distress or the stress. And by doing that, it decreases the sense of overwhelm. So the strategy also activates parts of the body and the brain to help one come back into balance. And as I said before, it communicates safety to the nervous system. So hence touching stresslessness. So we'll try two strategies together. The first one I'm inviting you into is to push against the wall. So if you have a space where you can get to a wall, I'm inviting you to just place your both hands on the wall. I'll push against this furniture here. And I'm just inviting you to just place your hands on the furniture or the wall, and just using a muscle of your body to try to push it as much as you can to see if you can move it. But of course, if it's a wall, it's not going to be able to move. You're pushing it and you're engaging all the muscles of your body. So that takes you out of your mind and into your body, and it can help just to take away from whatever is stressful in the mind. So the key here is awareness. Awareness as you practice the strategy. So you want to be aware of your body as you push against the wall or a piece of furniture. The next one, this is also another simple one. It's to touch a surface. So with your hand, I invite you to just put your hand on the surface and touch it. And get curious, just like a child. What are you noticing? The first thing I notice is the temperature of this furniture. You may notice also if it's hard or soft, rough. What does it feel like against your fingers, your hand? Okay, so this is two exercises you can practice. So even if you're in a space with many people and you're feeling a sense of overwhelm, you can quietly do that. You can touch your chair or the table or whatever, or even touch a part of your body and just feeling that part. So we laid the foundation to talk about stress by understanding the resilient zone. Now we're going to look a little bit deeper into the nervous system. Yes, that's why people pump weight to lose stress. That is there. That's it. That is it, brother. That is it. Exercising is a good way to manage stress, and especially if you bring awareness as you're actually exercising, it's wonderful. Thank you for that, brother, and welcome on. Let me just pause to invite you to please give a thumbs up. Sometimes I forget the whole YouTube, subscribe, the whole YouTube, like, comment, and those things. But I remember now. So inviting you, please just give a thumbs up if this feels good for you so far. It does help the rating and the reach, and we are a small channel and growing. And imagine this reaching a wide audience, especially Jamaicans. Oh, revolution, I say. All right. So we're going to look at the nervous system as it relates to stress. When you talk about nervous system, we can get into some big words, okay? I'm going to try to simplify it. So for those who want to go deeper, please, I invite you to go ahead and do more research. There are many gurus out there about the nervous system and how it works in regards to stress, but this is a simple way to look at the nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is the part of the nervous system that controls unconscious body functions. That's why you have the word auto. So it controls your breathing, your heartbeat, digestion, blood pressure, sexual arousal. You can see it here. So it does stem from the brain. But of course, we can hold your breath, but at some point, the autonomic nervous system will kick in and we'll start breathing. This is also true for dieting and why dieting doesn't work long term. So we can use willpower to curb our appetite, but at some point, the autonomic nervous system will kick in and we'll start to eat the place down. That's true for me. I talk from experience. I was an avid dieter as a teenager and into my 20s. My 30s, I gave up on it. All right. So there are two branches of the autonomic nervous system. And the first one I wanted to touch on is the sympathetic nervous system. From now on, I'll talk about it as the fight and flight. And also there is a parasympathetic branch of the nervous system. And I also refer to this now as rest and digest, just to simplify things. So the fight and flight prepares us for action, and the rest and digest, as it says, prepares for rest. So when there's a perceived threat, let's say that we're driving and someone cuts us off the road. The SNS is activated. The fight and flight is activated. We may notice our heart rate increasing, our blood pressure increases, our stress hormones are released, and in the resilient zone, we start to move up higher on our zone. So you can imagine, I don't know if you can see my mouse pointing. You can imagine going up in your resilient zone as this is happening. So all of this is happening very fast. And as we prepare to take action, let's say we jam on the brakes and we get to safety, then our rest and digest will kick in. And it prepares us for, it will bring us back down into our resilient zone. So we talk about going up, then rest and digest bring us down. So when it brings us down, we may notice our heart rate decreases. So maybe before your heart is like beating out of your chest, now it's starting to, cool down, and your blood pressure will decrease, etc. So this is a brief stress response, and with a lot of stress, this can be you can be in a state of hyperarousal. So that means you're kind of on a high all the time. Sometimes you may see someone very agitated all the time. That happens to me. Sometimes I'm edgy. So with a lot of stress, for a long time, you can get into a hyperarousal state. And sometimes when you get in that state, it doesn't seem like anything can turn off that state. You can imagine being in that state and your heart rate beats fast, for like all the time, and the blood pressure is high, for prolonged time. You can just imagine, because we'll talk a little bit about blood pressure later. So in the model, we are cultivating access to the rest and digest. So that's the parasympathetic nervous system. Some think that it is the parachute bringing us down. It's very easy, automatic to go into the fight flight, but the rest and digest need some cultivation. So remember, we began with the landing moment. That was bringing us down, landing in her body, in her experience. So how does one know when you get bumped out and you come back in? In the example, we talk about the coming down in the nervous system. So in the resilient zone, we're coming down. How does one know? Sometimes we can know because we have these nervous system release, and we'll look at that at another session. But the nervous system release, in a nutshell, is the body release whatever stressors it was holding. So sometimes it could be burping, it could be a bit of shake or something of that sort. It is the nervous system coming back into balance. So we do need both the rest and digest and the fight and flight. The aim is not to try to control any of these, but is to create awareness of how they're operating in our lives, so we can increase our well-being in body and mind. So let's have another mini pause where we will practice one more strategy. So this strategy again is a part of the Reset Now skill from the community resiliency model. I'll take a drink. I've been talking. So this we have been practicing, but we're just going to make it a little bit more official now. So in Reset Now, we practice orienting. So it's simply looking around your space slowly with awareness. Yes, you may be familiar with it, but we're looking again because we're trying to communicate to our nervous system safety. And you cannot do this enough, looking around to see that it is safe. No one is harming us in this very moment. So paying attention to something pleasant in your space or whatever catches your attention is also helpful for the nervous system, because not only are you looking around at things that are neutral, but when we look around at something that is pleasing to us, it can also even bring us down even more into our nervous system and that feeling of safety. And sometimes too, just to make things interesting, because anything can become boring very fast. So we want to be creative. And so sometimes I myself, I look around and I may look for specific colors. So I'm going to see all the blues that's in the room. And I look around for all the blues. And I may even count them too. So again, creativity is helpful. Moving on, we still have a few more to cover before we end. I know Ralston has to leave at 8:30. Hopefully he's getting ready to go. I'm sorry if I'm keeping longer. But Ralston, please get ready to leave, and I'll call you on at the end for the last poem. Okay, we're now talking about toxic stress. So we said that stressful events happen and we get bumped out of our resiliency zone. What if we spend most of our lives living outside the resiliency zone? This is when stress becomes toxic. The community resiliency model acknowledges that not everyone perceives the same event as stressful or life-threatening. So what is stressful for one person may not be stressful for another person. So we'll just go a little bit in terms of the definition of toxic stress. So I like to just show a little bit of my hand in this. So toxic stress refers to a range of, is used to describe a spectrum of stress from positive, tolerable to toxic. So when you're experiencing like exercise and your heart rate is increasing, your breathing getting rapid, that is a positive stress. And yes, you may go up in your zone briefly, but you'll come back down fairly rapidly. So that is not harmful for mind and body. But we also have tolerable stress in the middle, which is like, for example, sometimes we're taking an exam. And so it's like a time limited stressor. And the body is out of balance during the stressor. For example, when I came on, I was, nervous. So I was out of balance. But as I settle in, balance is regained. So that's a time limit. But toxic stress now is ongoing and relentless. So this can be like child abuse, child neglect, racism, sexism, etc. So I'll just put back on. Yes. So toxic stress is another word for trauma. So it causes the person's nervous system to become dysregulated, and it can send us very high or very low. So there are 3 categories that's listed here as toxic stress. So I'll talk about each one of them. So there's too much too fast, too much for too long, and too little for too long. So welcome, brother. I'm just checking in the chat. So I'm a one-person show, so I'm monitoring chat and also the presentation. I'm looking for help. So anyone knows how to do YouTube moderator, please let me know. Sorry, I don't have a way to pay you right now, but who knows when the channel grows. All right, back to the topic. So too much too fast. An example of that is a car accident or earthquake or a sudden bad news. You've heard someone says, I've got some news, or you're sitting down. So I want to ask you, how much bad news do we take in per day? When do we know it's too much? Too little for too long includes developmental trauma, ongoing trauma, which can cause the nervous system to become dysregulated. Example of that is poverty, racism, sexism, neglect, child abuse. Yeah, sometimes with child abuse, we think that once the act is done, it's done, but that child lived with that for their whole life. Too little for too long. There's a study, the ACE study, that talks about that. If you're interested, you can take a look at that. So it is known in psychology that a child that is not touched or held can die of neglect. So a baby gets stressed out when it's wet, hungry, needs a human connection, and needs to, and when their needs are not met. I'd like to talk a little bit more about poverty. So poverty under this category of too little for too long. So poverty is a source of stress and must be addressed. So not having access to our basic needs is a source of stress, and it comes with a slew of unwholesome activities. Oops, that was my hands knocking things over. My hand. So, for example, crime, violence. So when we look at the current system, we can see very clearly that it's not designed for the well-being of the person. The system is designed for a few to get rich and the rest of us craving that richness and running after it. So not everyone can be rich. It's just not possible. It's that simple. So if someone ascribes to being rich, they're also accepting the poor. So if you access riches, you're accepting poverty. This is just the natural law of things. Yin, yang, day, night. So when I was in the monastery, I came across this teaching that talks about the 8 realizations of great beings. And the 6th one struck me, so I'll read it for you. This really helped me to have a deeper understanding of the way poverty works. The 6th realization of great beings is the awareness that poverty creates hatred and anger, which creates a vicious cycle of negative thoughts and actions. When practicing generosity, a bodhisattva or a good Samaritan, consider everyone, friends and enemies alike, to be equal. They don't condemn anyone's past wrongdoings or hate even those presently causing harm. Wow. For me, that was quite deep. And I still get goosebumps by reading it. So, in addressing the toxic stress of too little for too long, and I'm talking about poverty now, is I see grassroots movements and communities where we can focus on all having access to resources and having our basic needs met. How can we do this? So please, community, if you have ideas, I'm looking for ways, and I will be, trying different things out. Got some ideas from my new sister I met. So thank you, Empress. So please let me know if you do have ideas too. So moving on, the last point of toxic stress is too much for too long. Poverty is also under here. Microaggression, homophobia, racism. The pandemic is here. I know these days the pandemic is so far out of my mind that sometimes I'm surprised that it's still going on. But yes, it is. So there isn't racism here in Jamaica, but there's colorism, and that is a topic on its own. But it has similar harm that racism has. So racism is accumulative. It has been going on for a long, long time, and I say no more. So, how can we avoid this kind of stress? It's built in the system. Okay. So some of these toxic stress we talk about is built in a system that it's bigger than us. So this is where we come up with grassroots movements. So I have a question here from Glenroy. Can one get used to poverty over a period of time so they are no longer stressed by it? Actually, maybe on a cognitive level, there's not that stress about poverty, but from a survival mechanism, there is a stress because when our basic needs are not met, we're always constantly, the mind cannot settle. It's constantly looking for ways to meet its need. And that may be conscious or unconscious. So when we're in poverty and it's chronic, it becomes a habit. So that becomes our normal baseline. So we may not even realize there is another way, another world. So I remember when I came to meditative, because I was living in survival mode for a long, long time. And when I came to the meditative practice, I was so stunned because it's almost like I opened the door and entered another world. I never thought that I could experience peace and real deep joy. And for me, that was me stepping outside of my normal baseline world into another way of being or of existing in this world. So I think that yes, you can get used to poverty. So it's in your everyday mind and everyday baseline. Maybe you're not thinking that you're stressed out, but on a nervous system level, you are, because you're living in the fight and flight, the sympathetic part of the nervous system, and not in the rest and digest, where we can have social engagement, because the parasympathetic breaks down even more, where we can get into social engagement, where we can feel someone else's pain, or we can connect with people on a human level. So yeah, so for me, it's even though one may not be aware of it, yes, it's possible to still be stressed out, even if you live in poverty all your life. And hopefully that's clear. If it's not, please let me know and I'll try again. So you can see the impact of toxic stress on the blood pressure. I know it's quite surprising, like you know, blood pressure is a common thing in our culture, having high blood pressure. And even if one tries their best and don't want it and do everything, sometimes it just happens. And we can start to understand that a little bit by seeing how the nervous system works, and especially when we talk about the rest and digest and the fight and flight. So if you're in the fight and flight all the time, yes, it's quite possible that you'll have high blood pressure or even low blood pressure. um, I suffered from low blood pressure for a long time, and for the past couple of years of practicing these skills and so forth, that my blood pressure is pretty much in the normal range. Thank God for that. All right, so let's do another pause before we wrap up. I think we're ending soon. Let me just see. Yeah, we're ending soon. So we'll this one is another pretty simple skill to do. Thank you for that thumbs up, brother. So name 6 colors that you can see right now. So 6 different colors. And if that's too easy, try naming 20 different colors you see right now in your space. I allow you to do that. How was that? Was it easy? Or you need more time? Okay. So the nervous system is dynamic, so creativity helps. So there are many other many other strategies under the Reset Now skill. So you can check them out. They're on the iChill app, as well as the other 5 skills that we will be learning. There's a total of 6 skills, and today we only look at one, which is Reset Now. So changing up what skill you practice and how you practice them from time to time may be helpful, because again, we are humans and things can easily become blah. So we want to keep it alive and change it up. So right now we may name 6 colors, we may name 20 tomorrow, or challenge yourself and find all the reds and blues in the room. Okay, in the interest of time, I'll move to the next. So the information I provide may be helpful to understand what we're working with within our bodies and our minds. So again, it's about quality of life. What does this have to do with your life? It's about quality of life and choice. Sometimes we don't realize that we have a choice. Now we're understanding that actually when my nervous system is out of whack, when my nervous system is in the highs, I can actually do something to bring it down so I can feel better in my body. And again, what Silvercat shared at Merciless's funeral, stayed with me. When a man is going through stress in Jamaica, they turn to liquor to wipe away all the stress. What if you don't have to do that? What if you don't have to reach for the alcohol? What if you could reach for a skill to bring well-being in the body, and the skill has no side effects that is harmful? So you have that pleasant feeling in the body with no side effects. So I'm going to invite you now just to imagine for a moment, what would it be like to live a life where you knew how to take care of stress and bring well-being in the body? You're not bracing yourself for what's around the corner. You're not afraid of what may happen. Some may call this fearlessness or deep trust in life. Whatever you may call it, just imagine just having the confidence to meet life, knowing whatever happens, you can meet it. So this is possible with gentle, diligent practice over time. We widen our resilient zone bit by bit. And so I hope you've received something from today's sharing, and I have more There are more strategies for you to play around with. Again, there's the iChill app. I will talk about some resources. There's the iChill app. You can find it on Apple Store or Play Store. Is it Apple Store? Please forgive me. And then there's also a lot of resources on YouTube that talks about nervous system, so we can be a bit more educated in our nervous system, so we can work better with it. So instead of our nervous system being the enemy, it can be your friend. Well, thank you, Queenie, and welcome. On my channel, I also include some meditative aspects. In the playlist, A Pause in Nature, we have some very small pause, as small as a minute, or I think I even have 40 seconds, where you can listen to something. Some of it is guided and some of it is not guided. So it may be some sounds to help bring you back into balance in your body and mind. And also, I have a playlist of deep relaxation, and this is especially good if you want to take a nap or right before bed. There's some deep relaxation where I guide, and there's some that's not guided, it's just sounds of streams. You're welcome, Queenie. You're welcome. Thank you for popping by. And of course, I put myself out there. Do reach out to me. I do have my email address on my About page on YouTube. Send me a line and I'll help wherever I can. And of course, I don't have all the answers. I will not claim to have all the answers, but at least I can give you a direction to go in. The answer is really inside of you. It's inside of you. I'm just helping to uncover it so you can navigate on your own. So next time around, again, is a very rich topic, stresslessness. I only just skimmed the surface. We can talk about the three brains and how they work, and how they are the center of how we perceive and handle and react and respond to stress. The three brains. So we'll talk about that. And in the three brains is the amygdala. So I wanted to pull that out to highlight it. And we'll practice 2 more skills, tracking and resourcing. So that is maybe in a couple of weeks. So thank you so much, dear family, for being here. Happy to be with you, happy to share. I feel as if what my Zen master was telling me to go back to my roots is coming alive. And this is a concrete way. So it's my pleasure to be here sharing. Yes, howdy, we're not proudy, and we're not rowdy, but little by little, we're building this community of revolutionary Jamaicans and non-Jamaicans. It doesn't have to be only Jamaicans. So I'm going to call Ralston up for our closing poem. Thank you again for your patience. It is a long session, and I hope you benefit from it in one way or another. Yes. Thank you, Queenie. I really appreciate your feedback here. Yes, yes. So, Ralston, are you ready to take us out with your poem?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to spotlight you so you can go ahead and share.
All right. Lift your knees and go. No time to be thinking about what you do or do not know. Time to be art in motion. Time to write your name at number 1. 1. Lift your knees and go. Swing your arms. Get in front. Write your name at number 1. Thank you, Kenyatta.
Thank you so much, Ralston. I really appreciate your reading and your manifesting of those poems into this realm so we can all benefit from it. Thank you so much for being here on this journey with us and contributing to those good vibes that Queenie is talking about. Yeah. So Jamaica can have some good vibes, it doesn't have to be, this is it too. So folks, thank you for being here with us. We appreciate you. I appreciate you. And we'll continue our journey and look out for the next Stresslessness, maybe part 2. where we'll continue, because again, this is given the power back to the people, back to you, to be able to navigate your life and to be able to show up your best self. So you can always go back to refresh your memory, because the way the mind is, all of this can disappear within a week. So we need to always come back to refresh and repractice. And I do intend on having courses, like 6 weeks courses, where we can go a bit deeper into this. So thank you, dear family, for being here, being a part of the journey. And I just want to say that, yeah, I feel quite happy and excited to be able to do this and to be here with you. Thank you. Thank you. So walk good, as they say in Jamaica, right? Walk good. All right, folks. I'm signing off now. Kenyatta, I'm signing off. And please remember, give a thumbs up to help the channel reach more people, and share with your friends. So next time around, they can watch this one and then attend the next one, part 2. So there's a love for Ralston, deep poem Ralston. Yeah. Glenmore, you want to check out the first poem that he read in the beginning? That's also very lovely. Wonderful. Thank you. Much love, dear family, dear hearts. Until next time. Thank you.